Hello and welcome to Beautifully Balanced. Health and happiness aren't found in a bottle of prescription pills or with any fad diet. Instead, we can activate your body's natural ability to heal itself. And that is exactly what we're going to do together here. I'm Sarah Teeple, a women's integrative health practitioner, and I blend the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda with the modern science of functional medicine to help you heal your gut, rebalance your hormones, and calm anxiety naturally. Here I'll teach you the smart, sustainable, personalized, and fun way to use nutrition, herbs, and healthy lifestyle to feel vibrant, energized, and beautiful inside and out. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. I'm so excited about today's episode because it is about one of many people's favorite treats and my absolute favorite treat. And it is dark chocolate. So if you love or crave dark chocolate, this episode is a must listen. Dark chocolate has received a lot of accolades and a lot of praise in the wellness industry and even in lots of research studies about why it's a better choice than many other sweet treats. So it feels like a better choice, of course, than obvious other processed foods. And yes, dark chocolate is essentially a processed food, but it's obviously a lot better for you than things like a Twinkie. I don't even think they make those anymore, or lots of different processed like snack cakes and chips and things like that. Because, it's lower in sugar than other sweets and it's high in an antioxidant type called flavanols. And if you know me, you know that dark chocolate is kind of my thing. And I'll tell you more about why it's a better choice than what I used to indulge in a moment. But first, I want to draw some attention to the fact that with dark chocolate, just like any other sweet treat that spikes our feel-good hormones like dopamine and oxytocin and is quite craveable, it can be a slippery slope for some. So not all chocolates are created equally, and some don't have any health benefits for that matter. So today, what we're going to be diving into, and you know me, I like to dive deep. This isn't just your cursory, dark chocolate has antioxidants, late breaking news. This is a much deeper dive. We're going to dive into what your chocolate cravings might mean. So the root causes, why might you be having those cravings, how to address those root causes, and if you choose to eat dark chocolate, which I do, how to choose the healthiest chocolate. So again, this is not a regurgitation of one of the thousands of wellness blog type things that you could read or listen to, giving you this breaking news that cacao, the bean from which chocolate is made, has antioxidants and anti-inflammatory properties, because we've all read that a million times. And FYI, many of those research studies are actually industry funded. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this concept called an industry funded nutrition study, but it's an important thing to be aware of, especially when you're sort of reading the wellness marketing and sort of the general zeitgeist, which means just like the one size fits all wellness trends out there that everyone's like, you have to eat this, you must do this. And they cite the research. So you're like, well, gosh, of course I have to eat this to be healthy. But many of these research studies are actually industry funded. And in the case with chocolate, over the past 30 years, the food companies, and that's what industry funded means. It means the food companies themselves are funding these studies. So, obviously they're going to be favoring studies that show outcomes in their favor. With chocolate, food companies like Nestle, Mars, Hershey's, among the biggest producers of chocolate in the world, they've been pouring millions of dollars into scientific studies and research grants to support this cocoa science or this cacao science. Cocoa and cacao are basically synonymous, but the cacao bean is what it's called in like South and Central American countries. We usually call it cocoa bean. So the science does remain relatively sound that dark chocolate has some anti-inflammatory benefits. But there's a lot more to the picture. And that's what I want to bring all together in a very cohesive and digestible way in this episode of the podcast. Because you guys know that I love to bust the myths of our toxic diet culture, of this capitalist kind of industry and profit driven messaging that we're getting. Anything, any company or any marketing that's telling you you have to eat this to be healthy, and this, fill in the blank of what this is. But if this is a processed food made by a corporation, we're going to look twice at it and we're going to get to the bottom of it. So, dark chocolate. Oh my goodness. So if you know me, you know that dark chocolate is kind of my thing. It's my favorite treat. I've talked about it some on the podcast. I talk about it with clients. I do believe that it can be a healthy, lovely thing to indulge in, even a little bit every day. And it is a better indulgence than some. And for me, I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but I spent 10 years in a rock band, indulging in lots of other things. So living that rock band lifestyle. Now, people that know me now, especially people that did not know me in my 20s and early 30s, but do know me now, are like, oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine you chugging beers and drinking shots of whiskey and smoking cigarettes and staying up all night singing in a loud rock band with a bunch of dudes. And that was basically my life for 10 years. And it was super fun, super empowering. I very much feel like I was able to get in touch with this sort of fiery, expressive wild child within me. And it was wonderful in so many ways. And as you could probably imagine, that lifestyle of overindulging in alcohol, smoking cigarettes, eating late at night, having a very late night kind of night owl sleep schedule, it was not sustainable. And I experienced mental and physical health problems related to that before I realized I really needed to make some changes. And those changes were personal, involved relationships. There were professional changes I had to make. And, it's wonderful. It set me on the path that I'm on right now. And the moral of that story is that indulging in some wonderful anti-inflammatory, organic, fair trade dark chocolate is a much better indulgence than lots of shots of Kentucky bourbon and smoking cigarettes all night. So we definitely want to recognize that if we're making pretty good food choices, have relatively sound nutrition, that some sweet treats here and there, especially if we are really enjoying them and we're making the best choices possible, that we can allow ourselves that, and we can enjoy that, and we can love that for ourselves. So fast forward from the wild rock band days, and now I've been in clinical practice, practicing integrative healthcare, helping women with gut hormones and anxiety for over 10 years. And I get to use my own experience, my own real life experience, and all the education that I've received and all the experience with my clients to really dive into the nutrition science with you, to explain and offer suggestions of how you can indulge, enjoy, but sensibly, with your body in mind and with your best vibrance and thriving in mind. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So first, I want to touch a little bit upon the difference between liking dark chocolate and craving dark chocolate, because we're going to dive into the reasons that we might crave dark chocolate. So if you like it, you could kind of give or take dark chocolate. But if you crave it, you want it, you need it, you think about it. And you might think about it until you get some. You might have a little stash in your desk drawer like I do. So here are some common reasons that we might crave dark chocolate. The first reason we might crave dark chocolate, and these are not in order of likelihood, it's not like number 1 is the most common reason and number 4 is the least common reason. So in no particular order, but all equally important. Reasons we might crave that dark chocolate. It might be a magnesium deficiency. So dark chocolate, especially if it's 70% or higher percentage of cacao, It's very mineral rich. And nowadays, people are not really so deficient in vitamins as we are in minerals. And this is because our soils are much more depleted from unsustainable agricultural practices and many different things. So the food that we're eating still has plenty of vitamins, but it might not have the mineral content that our body needs. And magnesium deficiency is one of the most common mineral deficiencies. Signs and symptoms of magnesium deficiency can be little eye twitches, headaches, insomnia, Charlie horses or leg cramps, jaw tension or TMJ. So magnesium is known as the relaxation mineral. And when we are deficient or insufficient in it, we can have many different symptoms that are all related to tension. So if you crave that wonderful dark chocolate, you might be deficient in magnesium. It's something that you can request blood work from your PCP, but often, even if you're showing in a normal range of magnesium in your blood work, there still might be an insufficiency. Most people are insufficient in their magnesium. And the type of magnesium that I recommend most often is a type called magnesium glycinate if you want to supplement with it. Now, always run this by your doctor first, of course. But magnesium glycinate is called a chelated form of magnesium, which means it's much easier for you to absorb and it has no digestive side effects. So many types of more common magnesium that you're going to find, at Walgreens, at those just like general pharmacies out there, or probably that you're going to find the cheapest in an online marketplace like Amazon. Those are going to be the cheaper magnesium salts like magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate, magnesium malate. And those are not as well absorbed. And magnesium citrate, which is a super common one, can cause lots of digestive side effects. By this, I mean loose stools and bloating. So you do not want that. So eat a little bit of dark chocolate, or take some magnesium glycinate. Those are some ideas around if you're deficient in magnesium. So the number 2 reason we might crave dark chocolate, there might be a lack of pleasure in our life. And I know I've had to examine this a little bit, especially being a busy working mom of 2, having a lot of responsibilities, and again, just, being kind of overscheduled and under relaxed, if you will. So sometimes when we don't have as much relaxation or pleasure in our lives, we're a little bit lower in feel-good hormones like dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, these wonderful feel-good neurotransmitters that just help us feel connected, loving, pleasurable, laid back. And so we might be looking to a sweet treat like chocolate to bring us that pleasure. And on one hand, there is nothing wrong with experiencing that pleasure. It's a really wonderful thing. But also, we don't want our dark chocolate to be the only form of pleasure and self-care in our lives. And again, I bring this one up because I've had to investigate this in my own life as well. So some other forms of pleasure and self-care could be self-massage. This could be intimate self-massage or just giving your neck a little massage. So, we are talking a little pleasure. Masturbation is a wonderful thing, or having orgasms with a partner. Totally wonderful, beautiful, connective thing. There's your oxytocin and dopamine right there. Other ways to get pleasure in your life: to smell beautiful essential oils. I love lavender essential oil. I love jasmine essential oil, rose, lang lang. These are sort of the floral, sensual, pleasurable essential oils in my book. I love doing yoga nidra. It's also known as sleep yoga, but it's almost like taking a really deep 20-minute power nap that's really restorative and rejuvenative. Wearing clothing that you really like, and fabrics, like natural fabrics that feel good to you, like linen, cotton, silk, wool, the soft, maybe merino wool. But these are wonderful ways to just experience some pleasure in your life. Looking at beautiful things, a beautiful sunset, looking at trees. So think about what brings you pleasure and make sure that you're not just getting it from dark chocolate or really any food. This is something that we see a lot when we see clients stress eating. saying is that they're just looking for some way to kind of relax and numb out, and they do not have other good positive coping strategies for their stress. So they're looking for food to create that dopamine and oxytocin, something to just be aware of in your own life. Number 3 reasons we might crave chocolate. We might just really like that caffeine from the chocolate. Number 4 is we might just really like that sugar from the chocolate. So I kind of sped through 3 and 4, but we'll talk about both of them sort of as a conglomerate here. But dark chocolate, along with the cacao, these wonderful bitter medicinal compounds, it also does have a decent bit of caffeine and sugar. And sometimes if we're sleep deprived, if we're a little bit low on energy, that caffeine and sugar can just feel like a really nice boost. So again, that's totally all right. That's on the table. It's a great reason to enjoy a little bit of dark chocolate, but we also just want to do that with awareness and mindfulness. I know for myself, I do not drink coffee just because it aggravates my anxiety. And if you want to learn all about coffee and a way to enjoy it Ayurvedically and holistically, definitely go back and listen to episode number 14 and my 4 coffee tips. But if you're like me, you might indulge in a little dark chocolate in the late morning instead of coffee. And that can be great. Just make sure you're aware of the caffeine content and also the digestive effects that caffeine and cacao can have on your digestion. Sometimes they can cause a little bit of tension in your digestive tract. So if you have food sensitivities or just a more sensitive digestive tract, too much chocolate could exacerbate that. So now you know the common reasons why you might be craving dark chocolate. And we've investigated each reason and given some alternatives or some things that you might do to address each root cause involved in why we might be craving dark chocolate. The magnesium deficiency, the potential lack of pleasure or feel-good hormones like dopamine and oxytocin, and that little boost of caffeine and sugar that you might be wanting and enjoying from your dark chocolate. So, as we said at the beginning of the episode, all dark chocolates are not created equal. So next up, I want to tell you how to choose the best, healthiest dark chocolate to indulge in and to enjoy. First off, we always want to look for 70% or higher. Otherwise, it's going to be too much sugar. We're going to be consuming too much sugar. We also want to stick to about the serving size or less, noted on the package. Furthermore, I want you to be consuming your dark chocolate before 4 p.m. So dark chocolate is not your after dinner dessert. And this is something that I see in wellness blogs all the time, like, oh, here's my healthy dessert, raspberries and dark chocolate. Well, people, please, if you have any trouble sleeping or you're getting in bed anytime after 10 p.m., this dark chocolate as your dessert is absolutely interrupting a healthy sleep cycle. As we said, dark chocolate contains caffeine, so we want to have it earlier in the day if possible. And when I tell people I have mine around 10 a.m. every day, sometimes they look at me like I'm crazy, but that is when that little boost of caffeine and sugar actually do what I want them to do physiologically for me. So it can be a sensible time to indulge. I usually try to indulge with some warm water or with some ginger tea just to help me best digest that dark chocolate because I am digestively sensitive as well. And as we said, that caffeine and sometimes the different fats, the cocoa butter, or sometimes the emulsifiers that are in dark chocolate can be a little difficult for your digestive system. So enjoying it with some warm tea is always a nice idea. So here's what else to look for in order to choose your best dark chocolates. And I'm going to give you my favorite brands to choose as well. So try to look for 70% or higher. Enjoy it before 4 p.m. Look for fair trade and organic, and preferably without emulsifiers. So emulsifiers are things like soy lecithin and sunflower lecithin. And in the case of chocolate chips, sometimes there are even different kinds of waxes in chocolate chips. And so what emulsifiers do, if you don't know this, emulsifiers help water soluble and fat soluble things combine to make them a little more smooth. So a lot of regular brands that you're going to find like on the grocery store shelf or the drugstore shelf, like Ghirardelli, Godiva, Hershey's, Mars, Nestle, all these kind of common brands, they're all going to contain emulsifiers, most likely. So we want you, for the most part, choosing other brands, ones that are fair trade and organic, ones that you're going to find more at Whole Foods, at your local co-op in Louisville. We have a wonderful place called Rainbow Blossom. And I'm going to give you a little curveball here in just a moment, because even some of the organic brands, there's another problem. But I'm going to bring this all together and tell you how to balance all of these things. But so fair trade, that is important because cacao farming is kind of like coffee bean farming. So these crops grow in countries that the term used to be like third world or developing nations, but basically in countries in Africa, Central and South America, where sometimes bigger companies are coming in and having indigenous people work on farms in unsafe and not good conditions, and they're being underpaid. So fair trade ensures that to harvest and grow these cacao beans, workers are being treated fairly and being paid fairly. It's super important. If you're not buying fair trade, the people that are harvesting and growing your chocolate beans or your cacao beans could easily be getting paid like slave wages. So we do not want that, obviously. Organic also, by now, we probably know this, but organic means that the beans are produced without the use of pesticides, harmful pesticides and herbicides, and that's really important. So some of the brands that I love that meet all these criteria, 70% or higher, fair trade, organic, no emulsifiers, are brands like Alter Eco. It's like the word alter ego, but Alter Eco, kind of clever. Theo, Equal Exchange. There's a wonderful small batch brand called Mast, M-A-S-T. And there are several more, but those are some of my favorites. So I do want to also add that there was a recent Consumer Reports article that showed that some of these organic brands of chocolate have higher levels of lead and cadmium than are safe to consume. So this Consumer Reports article is really eye-opening, and I'll link it in the show notes. And for someone like me, and maybe you, who eats a little bit of dark chocolate every day, this was really important to me to understand that some of these brands like Theo, Alter Eco, Equal Exchange could be higher in lead and cadmium. We do not want these things in our systems, although lead and cadmium are also found in many things that grow in the earth. And again, that's just because of the state of our soils nowadays. But chocolate, especially, because something about the cacao bean tree sequesters cadmium, and then sometimes the way the beans are stored, sometimes they're not covered, and vehicles can be passing by and getting lead on the beans. So the best brands in order to avoid lead were Ghirardelli, which is not organic or fair trade, but the Ghirardelli, I believe it's 86% and 72%. And then that brand that I mentioned that was organic and fair trade called Mast, M-A-S-T. So you can special order Mast, and you can mix that up with some Ghirardelli and also throw in a little bit of Theo or Equal Exchange. So I think the best way to do it, to just ensure that you're getting the healthiest chocolate and that you're kind of balancing all these factors that we've talked about, the sugar, the caffeine, the pesticides, the fair trade, the emulsifiers, the cadmium and lead, is to shoot for Ghirardelli, Mast, Theo, Equal Exchange, and you can kind of vacillate between them, seeing which ones you prefer, always enjoying them sensibly, maybe with a little ginger tea or warm water, savoring every bite, and just enjoying that process for yourself, enjoying that pleasure for yourself, and really being with every moment. All right, I hope you have enjoyed this episode on dark chocolate. I know I've brought a lot of different factors and things to consider into play. And that is just what it's like often traversing the marketplace when it comes to these different kinds of ingredients. So I hope I've given you some really great ideas about how to enjoy dark chocolate sensibly. I will be enjoying it right there with you. I'm so glad that you were here with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Beautifully Balanced. Thank you for being here with me today. Remember, you can feel your best naturally. Just try one new thing a week that you learn here and watch your body and life transform. And if you're ready to take this to the next level, learn your dosha, get your personalized holistic plan, and live beautifully balanced, you've got to come see me at sarahteeple.com. That's SARAHTEEPLE.com. There you can learn about how to work with me one-on-one or book a free holistic chat and just tell me what you're working on. I love to hear from you and help you live your best life. So until next time, be well. Oh, and if you love this conversation, please rate and review our podcast. That really helps more people find natural healthcare options. Thanks again, and see you soon.